Welcome to Coffee and the Bible. Coffee and the Bible is a casual conversation about God. It is where we can sit down and just sort of apply God's word to our life today. And it really comes from, visiting church members when I was pastoring and sitting on the porch, eating pie and or a sandwich, iced tea or hot coffee, and trying to relate this to how does it help me today, and we want to read it and we want to understand it, but we want to be able to apply it. So that's what Coffee in the Bible is. If you want something deeper, let us know. We'll get something together that has a much deeper theological study, exegesis, and all that stuff. But for right now, even though we have everybody right here, we're going to still do our video segues. So grab some coffee, something to write with. We'll be right back.
Welcome to the Coffee and the Bible podcast, where we brew thoughts and pour over the scriptures. Join us as we explore faith over a cup of coffee, diving deep into discussions that matter. Visit our website for more content at rumble.com/fuller. Get ready for enlightening conversations that inspire and uplift. Let's fill our cups with coffee and our spirits with the Word.
So we're back. So at the VA, they're passing out snacks. I used to love these, so I won't eat it when we're doing the podcast. But anyway, I like those.
I made cinnamon rolls this morning.
Well, that would have been good. I would like the cinnamon rolls. That would have been really good.
I can go get one and eat it for you.
Yeah, you should. You should. Dory made chocolate chip cookies yesterday. All right. So before we jump into the study, if you're joining us, if you have your Bible, you're going to want to look at 1 Corinthians 11. We're going to look at the first 16 verses. That's where we're at today. We could do the whole thing in one shot, but we got a really late start. I had a doctor's appointment in Charleston. It's like 2.5 hours away. So I just got back from there. So before we jump into it, a couple things in the news that I've been paying attention to, Glenn Beck was talking about it too on the radio on the way back, is first of all, the guy that ran through at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the teacher from California, loaded down with a shotgun or a rifle and pistols and knives, and he's running through. Now, he wrote a little thing up before he did it that he didn't expect to live, that he expected to die. He was going to try to shoot as many people as possible. With the end result is he just wanted to die. So he wanted suicide by cop. And that's dangerous because usually in that situation, they just keep going and going and going until they're taken down. And so he never expected to be arrested. So he's been in jail for about a week in solitary confinement. He's been in suicide watch. But the judge in Washington, D.C., has put a complaint in because he doesn't think he's being treated fairly. Like this guy, this guy is being treated worse than the Jan Sixers. Huh?
It's not in the judge's jurisdiction, so he can't say shit. He doesn't have any authority.
That language. This is
sorry. Can't say anything.
The Bible.
Well, that's not a same thing as saying crap.
To say crap. There we go.
We're all like
excrement. How about that?
What's that? Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know, but Chappie, what did he say?
You say something and then it echoes.
See, I know I have an echo.
I don't hear an echo.
Is this
Maybe
better?
It's just me.
Is this better?
No, even now I say it and I just heard.
All right. Okay, so
Now it's
any better?
yeah.
Reliving the cell phone commercials.
Well, it's probably the internet. I really wanted to go back to the condenser mic because it would be better than anyway. I turned my iRig down. I'm having issues with my MIDI interface. So is that better? Yes, no? Still echoey? Well, why don't you guys talk a little bit among yourselves? I'm going to log out and come back in, I guess.
Oh.
Well,
every time he was saying something, like I didn't even know.
sometimes I get an echo off him too, but today I wasn't.
He's
Now he needs to rearrange the windows.
What do you mean the windows? Is this better?
You're in the bottom right-hand corner instead of over on the left side.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying, is my audio better?
Yeah, your audio is definitely better.
All right, so yeah, I need a new computer, so people can pray about that, and my MIDI system that goes and all that stuff. All right, so what do you think about that? The judge feels really bad for this this assassin that tried to kill President Trump. Doesn't think he's being treated fairly in jail. What do you think about that?
I think the judge should lose his position as a judge because he's not even the one that's in jurisdiction over it, and he has no say in it. So who cares what he thinks?
Well, I know Judge the judge that's in charge there of or the Attorney General, right, for Washington. The judge from Fox, what's her name?
Jean
Panero.
Yeah.
She's really mad about it because he's also the judge that put away all the Jan Sixers, and they were treated horrible for 2 years, and they lost their ability to.
Yeah, they didn't even do anything.
A lot of them didn't do anything. A lot of them didn't even go in the Capitol. Some of them didn't even go to Washington D.C. and none of them had weapons, and they were treated horrible. And it was this judge that did all that to them. And then all of a sudden, this assassin who had a rifle and pistol and knives, who wanted to die trying to kill Trump.
See, that doesn't even make any sense because, cases are supposed to be tried in the jurisdiction that they were committed in. It was committed in Washington, D.C., but we're going to try it over here in Washington State. And it's like,
no, not Washington State, Washington, D.C.
Not legitimate.
No, it's all Washington, D.C.
Oh.
But what I'm saying is that the same judge that did the Jan Sixers, who put them away for years, and some of them got so sick and never recovered. None of them had weapons, even though there may have been some that deserved to be there. Some of them never went in the Capitol. Some of them never even went to Washington, D.C. None of them had weapons, but they were treated poorly by this same judge that now is saying this known assassin, because attempted assassin, who had knives and rifle and pistol, who wrote a manifesto saying that he wanted to die in the attempt to killing Trump. Now the judge is there. The judge is demanding that the prison system give him a full report to make sure that his housing is more hospitable.
No, I would say we should not kowtow to this radical judge. He should be removed from the bench. If you don't know how to enforce the law, you don't belong on the bench. It's just the way it is.
All right, so I agree with that. What is your opinion there, Chappie?
I think we need to go back to executing people for doing their punishment, actually making people pay for their crimes so people don't do crimes. If people see that they're going to get in trouble for doing something, they're not going to do it.
Well, they're bringing, I think there's something in the Capitol in South Carolina to bring back the firing squad as a capital punishment.
Yeah, they're working on bringing the firing squad back, yeah.
Like, oh, let's have compassion for these people. No. Why? They didn't have compassion for anything that they were doing. Why the heck do we need to have compassion for these people? Oh, they came from a broken neighborhood. They grew up eating Trick cereal. I don't care.
Trick cereal.
What's wrong with tricks?
I
I
like
like
Trick
tricks.
cereal.
It's got fruity flavors and it's got a lot of red 40 in there. Okay.
But see, maybe all the fruity flavors is what making them live out in multiple color
I just think
fruitiness.
people need to pay for their crimes. If it's in here, but we're studying about the Bible, and I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a Bible. I don't have to believe it." That's fine. You can believe in science. Put yourself in the ground, and then you'll be reincarnated into a damn lizard or something. Whatever you think. But I mean, you can free think anything you want.
Yep.
Up until the end, when the great white throne judgment happens, they can think anything they want. But at that point, it's going to be too late.
Well,
Well,
ultimately, everybody's going to stand before God, and nobody gets an out on that. Nobody gets to sidestep that. One thing is for sure, like they said, right? Taxes and death. And it doesn't matter how rich you are. I was just noticing some pictures of movie stars that were really famous when we were all growing up. Ones that are still alive. You can't even recognize some that were like, wow, I wish I was that guy or whatever. Or wow,
Clint
I
Eastwood.
wish I dated that girl or whatever. And then you look at them and they're like, all they are is really old people that are about ready to die and they got nothing. They got nothing to show for it because no matter how much money you have when you die, you can't take any of that with you.
You're supposed to help others while you're here. That money, build your money, store your riches here on earth. Yeah, that's crazy. You know that? You remember Benny Hill?
Yeah.
He died with money around him. He did. He
Yeah.
had so much money. He just. It was. I don't. He didn't. He was very meager on spending. It just
Yeah.
didn't matter to him. He lived
Yeah.
in an apartment.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Well, it's just that none of that really matters, and I think they realize when you get that much money that it doesn't matter, and they don't know what to do with it, and they're not happy, they're miserable because they don't have Jesus. The only thing that makes you really happy, I think, is Jesus. To be honest.
I have to say this second time around with Jesus back into my heart, learning a lot more. It doesn't. You can put your worries away.
Yeah.
Anytime you have a problem, you can just pray about
Yeah.
it. That's the easiest thing you can do.
Right, and God does take that burden away. It's just that people don't trust it, and I've heard people say, "Well, I pray God didn't hear it." Well, but the thing is, do you believe it in your heart? Do you have a relationship? Because if you're not a Christian, really, I think the main prayer you need to pray is to have Jesus come into your life. But even if you're at your worst place, if you cry out to God, He will hear you and He will save you. I was in that place when God brought me to salvation. So, I think that's true. Okay. Another thing in the news is yesterday they shut down the White House for a period of time because they had a teenager that was on the east lawn that pulled out a handgun, started shooting at the Secret Service.
They need to get dogs. They need to get a set of dogs, man. They got some Belgium Malinois out there on the front lawn just to eat somebody up, man. I would pay to see that. Come on, pay-per-view cameras of people trying to get into the White House lawn, getting eaten by a Malinois.
Malibu. So what do you think about? Did you hear about that, Brian?
Yeah, and I kind of wondered why they didn't shoot him. He's pointing a gun at him. He's firing. Just shoot him, kill him.
Well, they shot him. I don't think they killed him, but they shot him. Yeah.
They should have been killed.
Okay, and so the last one is there's a guy running for governor in Wisconsin that is offering free beer to anybody that can kill Trump.
What?
And he's running for governor of Wisconsin. And his big campaign shtick is whoever can shoot Trump gets free beer. And yesterday when that teenager or whatever was shooting toward the Secret Service, he came out and said, "Well, it was almost a free beer day," and he's running for governor of Wisconsin. So, what do you think about that?
Well, you got that First Amendment, right? But then there's little things you can say and you can't say. You can't threaten somebody's life Well, it's my First Amendment right. No, that's intent to do harm, right?
Yeah. That doesn't count. That doesn't count. Yeah. So what do you think, Brian?
Wait. Can we?
I don't think that guy running has a stone, doesn't have a chance of being elected. I think he's mentally incompetent if he thinks that he can get someone drunk enough to go shoot the president.
Yeah, but I'm saying
but the bad wonder where common sense.
Yeah, but the bad thing is it's out there. Like you have Democrats making that claim, and then you have a lot of mentally deranged people on the left that will take that as a sign, a war call or something. Because not only that teacher running through the hallway of the hotel, but then you have this youth in the East lawn yesterday doing the same thing.
Yeah. People are weird.
Chappie, you were going to say something?
I was going to say happy birthday, Brian. I know. Happy birthday, happy 66, and happy birthday to my sister-in-law out there, 31 today. So, happy birthday.
I heard that.
Happy birthday, Brian Fuller. Brian Fuller. Raise it up. Let joy get louder. Cinco de Mayo off for you. Smiles, confetti, something new. Happy birthday, Brian Fuller.
When I played that on my phone, it wouldn't let me turn it off.
It wouldn't let you turn it off?
No.
Happy birthday, Brian Fuller. There you go.
Ed, Terry, and Cole.
I even got Cinco de Mayo in there.
Yeah.
I don't celebrate foreign holidays. I'm sorry. I only celebrate American holidays. Just saying.
I'm just saying.
Well, I didn't from everybody that in Mexico that's celebrating my birthday.
See, he can pretend Cinco de Mayo is really happy birthday, Brian, in Mexico.
Yes.
Now, but when I was teaching in Fort Worth, Texas, they'd shut down downtown Fort Worth for a week for Cinco de Mayo, and they closed school and bust the kids down, and food and music and all this. It's pretty good. I didn't know what it was. It was a while before I understood it was Independence Day in Mexico.
It's their independence from the French, but from what I grew up, my friends that were Mexicans said we don't celebrate that.
yeah, it's just one more reason to have a barbecue and drink beer.
Exactly.
But anyway, also Brian's birthday, so happy birthday to Brian.
Another day older.
Yeah, much older.
I'm sorry, I kind of got off the rave of it, but Brian's a big part of the show too, and he knows a lot about the Bible as much as you. And you guys are funny to watch poke each other.
All right, so we're going to start in. If you have your Bibles, we're looking at 1 Corinthians chapter 11. A lot of times when people hear chapter 11, they automatically are thinking about the Lord's Supper, which every church that does the Lord's Supper, communion, or liturgical churches, Eucharist, when they're doing that, they're reading it from Paul's account, not necessarily the Last Supper from Jesus's account, because Jesus also does feet washing and he accuses Judas, and there's a lot of other things in the conversation in the gospel recording of it. So oftentimes we're repeating what Paul says, and there is that section that Paul says people do it unworthily and all this stuff. We're gonna let that part of chapter 11, because that's what people think of when they think 1 Corinthians 11. We're going to give that a separate look at next week. So this one on chapter 11 is in two parts. The first part is today, episode 121, and then next week we'll cover the Lord's Supper along with eating unworthily. What does that mean, and all that stuff. But today we're focused in on Paul addresses the women in the church as far as covering their heads and why their heads are covered, the order that he gives things, God to man to woman, and a lot of things. Is this something that was only applicable then? Is it applicable now? How do we look at it today? All these things. So that's what we're looking at. So I'm going to start right in. I normally read from an easier translation, but my iPad is out, and my Bible that has the NLT version, all the letters peeling off the Bible. So until I can do something about that. So this is the Tree of Life version. It does have some Aramaic in there and stuff, but it says, starting in verse 2, now I praise you because you remember me and everything and hold firm the traditions just as I pass them down to you. But I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ or Messiah, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Every man praying or prophesying with his head covered dishonors his head, but every woman praying or prophesying with her head uncovered dishonors her head. For it is one and the same as having been shaved. Or if a woman does not cover her head, let her cut off her hair. But if she is shameful for a woman, but it is shameful for a woman to have her hair cut off or to be shaved, let her cover her head. For surely a man ought not to cover his head, since he is in the image and the glory of God, but the woman is the glory of man. For the man is not from the woman, but the woman is from the man. Neither was the man created for the woman's sake, but the woman for the man's sake. For this reason, the woman ought to have a symbol of authority on her head because of the angels. In any case, in the Lord, woman is not independent of the man. Man is not independent of the woman. For just as the woman came from the man, so also the man came through the woman. But all things are from God. Judge for yourself. Is it proper for a woman to pray to God with her head uncovered? Doesn't the natural order of things teach you if a man has long hair, it is a disgrace for him? But if a woman has long hair, it is her glory, for her hair was given to her as a covering. But if anyone intends to be contentious, we have no such custom, nor do God's communities. Okay, so I just read the whole thing. There's a lot in there. I guess the first thing I want to look at is he says, verse 3, but I want you to know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Okay, what do you think that means? Because I've been in ministry for 30 years, more than 30 years, and when I first got in there, there was a mindset in some churches with some people, especially in North Carolina, where the man is the head of the house and the woman is almost like a slave in the house. Even in the church, even if somebody who was a deacon in the church, to be physically assaulting his wife, and then that somehow wasn't frowned upon, because that was, the man is the man of the house and the woman is, she's less of a person. And that was the attitude that a lot of people have. And a lot of people use this passage to justify that, but that's not what this passage is saying at all. But what do you think?
Yeah, it's not saying anything about supporting husbands beating their wives up.
No.
Not even remotely close. But there is an order of leadership, divine leadership. And it talks about the husband being the head of the house, but it doesn't mean what everybody thinks it means, because he's married to a woman. That woman, in God's eyes, is one with her husband. So when the term the husband is the head of the house, it actually means the husband and the wife together are the head of the house. It doesn't give anybody the right to bulldoze over top of somebody else. It doesn't.
And he is single, lady. Not only is he birthday boy, he is single. I have to say that there are people out there that try to rule their wives like they're slaves or anything. Like my wife and I have talked about that, and I think that it turns a lot of women away from religion because they don't want to be. You already have a problem of the complex of being controlled, which I understand. It's kind of, I mean, kind of sucks, but I see us as equals. We're working this together. You know, when my wife and I were talking about it, she goes, "Well, if you didn't have me, we wouldn't be able to procreate. We wouldn't be able to make another child. But then if I didn't have you, I wouldn't be able to make another." So we're in this together. I'm not one up or I'm not one better than her. We're equals. We're both in this working. We got our plan, right?
Well, yeah. And so, Scripture says that in Genesis 3, where the man is to leave the mother and the father to cling to his wife, and the two become one. And I've said this before, the Hebrew word there doesn't necessarily mean, we always say that means sex. They come together in sex, but the Hebrew says they come together as one full, completed person before God. So, like Brian and you've said, it's not the husband rules the wife, because together they're one whole person before God. They're just two sides of one complete, perfect creation. And I think when you go into marriage realizing that you can't hurt your spouse because you're hurting yourself, because you're both together one whole creation before God. And so what does it mean when he says man is the head of the house? But if you look in when Paul talks about marriage and the roles in marriage, he says as Christ is the head of the church, then the man is the head of the home. In that, you can't stop there with a period, but there's a comma. There's more after the comma. And he says in that Jesus would give his life for the church, we then should also be willing to give our life for our spouse.
Well, because she's part of it.
Yeah, but that's when he talks about being the head of the house, he's talking about as Christ is the head of the church, who gave his life for the church, we should be the head of the home. So we should be that defender. We should be that protector. We should be that. That's what our role is.
That's probably what gives these marriage counselors the thought that if you're a guy and your marriage isn't going right, you're just not being the Jesus to your wife that Jesus is to the church. And it's like, to me, that's a line of crap.
A good choice of word there.
I used a better word.
You did. I know. I'm laughing. I'm glad you chose a better word.
I could have said excrement, then everybody would be scratching their head. What's he talking about?
Half the people would be Googling, what does that mean? Is that a kind of cookie? Is that a kind of frosting? What is that?
So I use something everybody knows.
You got to understand, Brian, anybody needs, Brian is military. Dan's military. I'm military. Brian thinks militarily. He's thinking that's the only reason. It's not a sin that he's trying to be vulgar. Or he's just trying to get things out in a way that he can explain it right. Sometimes it doesn't come right to other people. It might seem really bad, but Brian's speaking good. I mean, he's not. He's a good guy.
Yeah, my if he is to be straightforward and blunt, that way you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's no way you can misconstrue it and make it mean something it doesn't.
That's true. But like in counseling, the reason that they always go to the husband first, because statistically, in a marriage, when there's a breakdown, if there's violence or cheating or this, that, and the majority of the time it would be the man. And if the counselor doesn't know you personally, now, ideally you should fill out this personality thing, this questionnaire. And if you're honest, if both people are honest, then that gives them a better understanding where you're coming from. But when you first start, they're just trying to learn who you are. And I'm not defending them because we've talked about this before, but yeah, they automatically assume. And so until they know the real story, and we know that men get abused in marriages too. Men are the victims sometimes too. And it's taken a lot longer for society and counselors and that to catch up with that. So eventually they do get around to saying, oh, it's not him, it's her. but you got to wade through a lot of garbage, because if you know it's not you, and she probably know it's not you, but she's trying to make everybody think it's you, it's going to take a while for the counselors to realize it's not you. But yeah, but here, but
If
when
I was,
huh? Go
if
ahead.
I was married and we were going to a counselor, if the first thing he said out of his mouth was that line, I'd get up and walk out. You're making an assumption about me that you have no way of knowing whether it's true or not.
No, I know, but I'm
And
saying,
if you're any type of trained counselor, you don't automatically attack the person, one of the people you're talking to. You get to know who they are and where they're coming from.
well,
And if you can't do that, you shouldn't be a counselor to begin with.
what I'm saying is, though, that's part of their training in learning who you are. But
Well, their training's wrong.
okay, then fix the training. But I'm saying statistically, because mostly in this category is a man problem, this category is the woman problem. Sometimes those categories are reversed, but they don't know it's reversed in your situation until they learn about you. But the only toolbox they have is that they assume it's you,
Which is wrong.
which is wrong. But
they should spend time talking to both people and finding out what's going on.
I guess that,
and then address whatever it is.
I guess that would make the difference between a bad counselor and a good counselor. Then a good counselor would spend a lot more time gathering information before they make assumptions.
Yeah, the guy pulling that line off right off the get-go is a bad counselor.
There you go.
Hence the reason for getting up and walking out.
Getting up and walking out. So what were we going to say, Chappie?
I was just saying, I've been through a lot of counseling in my life younger, and I saw my parents go through it. And I've been married twice. My second marriage, it's all my first marriage I was definitely too immature, too young. My second marriage was my partner. You know, that's the thing, is that people get married just because they are attracted. Don't have sex with somebody the first night. I'm sorry if that offends you, Pastor Dan, but don't have sex with somebody the first night you meet them. Like,
don't ever do that. Yeah, don't do that.
I mean, the whole thing about, just leave some kind of it's different now. People just jump right into it, and they don't. And then once they like, oh, I don't really like this. It's like, I think we've all been there. I mean, we're all sinners, but you're like, oh, I'm not really into this person like 3 weeks into it.
Well, yeah, if you go into a relationship and it's based solely on physical attraction, that goes away after a while. And the love that makes a marriage work is a love that you have to work at. And you have to be willing to be invested. That's why they don't say it's 50-50. It's 100-100. Everybody has to give 100%. But if you give 100% and your spouse gives nothing, or their spouse takes, then it's going to, no matter how much you give, it's never going to come around. And I think that's a fault in counseling too, because they'll say, well, you just got to keep giving. Eventually they'll come around. And sometimes they do, but a lot of times they don't. If that's not a God-designed relationship, it's never going to come around. So
you have to be willing to open yourself up. I mean, I don't have any secrets. My wife goes through my phone. I don't have anything to hide. I don't want that in my life.
Well, and okay, that's a good point. And I think I've seen a lot of marriages where the husband or wife won't let the other one ever look at their phone. I think that's a red flag. I think you should be willing to be able to go through each other's phones.
I don't have any problem with anybody looking at my phone. All they're going to do is find phone calls and texts from people that I know.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So you should be able to do that with no problem. And I don't
even have the Facebook app loaded on the phone. So.
No, but I'm saying if you do, it would be a red flag if you don't want your spouse to ever see what's on, because if you don't want to see what's on your phone, then you're hiding something. Yeah. And so I think there's got to be complete honesty in a marriage. If you are two sides of one person, it should be completely open all the time.
Yeah.
And all that stuff. So
how can you be half of one if you're not honest?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're watching this and we're all guys and you're a girl and you're watching this and you have input, tell us what you think because we're just assuming. I tried to get my wife to come on here. I thought she had a lot of good points I'm going to share in a few minutes, um, but it would have been good to have somebody of the opposite sex on today for this conversation. But because this a lot of the misconceptions in the past came out of this passage. So we're just trying to clarify. If you're watching this, if you've got input, tell us in the comments because we will respond. And if we're still going live, you can also ask for a link and we'll send it to you.
See, I actually went through a marriage counseling thing before the ex and I split up and got divorced. And first words out of his mouth was that line.
More money.
I just looked at him, I stood up, and I walked out.
Yeah, you're not being enough. Yeah, I got you. But that's because that's the way they're trained, and I think what you said is correct. The better counselor is one that's going to not make any presupposition until they have a chance to hear both sides of the stories and stuff.
That's right. After all, it's two people, not one.
Yeah, and they should meet with each person separately for a while, and then
at least the first initial to get what's going on.
Well, they always meet with both together or whatever. Some meet with just one spouse or the other, but if I think you should meet with both spouses separately, and then together, because in a way they're both just going to complain about the other person, but it helps you to get a better picture. I think. Do a personality assessment, do maybe even a psych eval or whatever. But I think there's a lot of things that you can do because you don't know these people. You don't know. You know what somebody's told you, and if the only information the counselor has is one-sided, and if they're a very poor counselor, if they automatically just assume it's the guy's fault all the time, then the guy's going to lose no matter what.
Yeah, you should. If you want to save money, just open up and talk to your spouse. Ask her. Talk to her, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, no, sorry. There you go. I have to point opposite. No,
see,
there you go. Yeah. There you go. There you go. Okay, so that's the secret. If you're watching this and you're having issues and you think, wow, I would really like to talk to somebody, realize that a good counselor doesn't do any talking to you. A good counselor is only going to help you and your spouse talk to each other. So you can avoid the price tag and you can set a place for you and your spouse to talk on a regular basis and just be honest. No matter what happens, be honest. The best advice I can give with that is find a place in your house that's dedicated only for conversation. And never make it the bedroom. If you make the bedroom where you solve problems, then the bedroom will always be a place of conflict. So find a place in your house, maybe out by the fire pit or whatever. Find a place that you can sit down and say, okay, the kids are at bed. It's just us. We're at the fire pit. That's where we talk about issues and make that the problem-solving spot. And always be an active listener. Try very hard to hear what your spouse is saying. Repeat back to them what they're saying so they know that you heard them and they feel validated. Because honestly, if you go to a good counselor, the only thing they're going to do is they're going to help you learn those skills, and you can learn it all by yourself.
Yeah, honestly, save some money. Save some money. Yes.
Save some money. I even had some people that were high up in the leadership of the church come and talk to us. And after they got through talking with us, and these were people that actually knew us.
Yeah.
Because we had been around them for the last 5-10 years. And they kind of quietly told me when they left that they were sorry and that there's nothing they could do to. And it's like, I had to try somehow, but it just didn't work out.
Well, yeah. Yep. I have stories, but I guess I'm going to share them about.
Share them. Come on.
So
Get it out.
no, because I don't want to be attacking to my ex-wife. So
Just don't mention her name.
one pastor I had worked with that saw us all the time, had witnessed her treatment of me and the kids and stuff within the confines of the church, after church and stuff, and a lot. And I was still at seminary. I was being interviewed for a big position that would have paid 6 figures, and it was the easiest ministry job, great salary, and everything looked good. And all they had to do was talk to my current senior pastor, who loved me, who thought I was the best thing ever, and I did all these great things in my ministry position at a church, and a lot of growth in the church, and did a lot of things with no budget and stuff, and was able to foster things up. And after talking to that pastor, they called me back and they said, "I'm sorry, we decided not to go with you." And I said, "Well, what was the reason?" "Well, ask your current pastor." And they're like, "What?" I said, "Charles, what?" I called my pastor. I said, "Charles, what could you have said that made them not want to hire me?" He said, "Well, I told them that you were the best associate pastor anybody could ever have. They would be honored to ever have you. It would be to their benefit to have you on staff." I said, "Well, why would that make them say no to me?" And he says, "Well, Dan," he said, "he asked me about your wife." I said, "What'd you say?" I told him the truth, that she's the devil incarnate. I lost a church job because his opinion of her was.
Oh, it's unfortunate. But that's the past, and you're a better man for it now.
Well, I'm just saying, but I shouldn't have said the story, but it's a true story. It's just, and it doesn't necessarily mean that's who she was. It's just that that's the what's it called? That is the public persona that she displayed.
I could tell you what I thought when she was at my house.
Yeah, but this is not a bash. We're not bashing people today. That the podcast is a Bible podcast, so we're not bashing anybody.
I know.
And I guess I feel bad about sharing the story, but the thing is, I also want to give a disclaimer. Just because somebody may be upset and act a certain way in public doesn't necessarily, and in her case, maybe it was true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that is who you are and stuff. So I'm just giving a disclaimer, because this is not about bashing anybody. But anyway.
Dan, I think Brian is he's ready to go. He's ready.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I see that.
It's my birthday. What can I say?
Oh, that's right. It's your birthday. You're taking liberties. I guess.
Right.
Anyway, so again, I think it's also important not to bash your spouse in public and stuff. And true. I think the end result was, the reason my senior pastor had the feelings he did is because she did bash her family members publicly and stuff. So I think that's where that came from. But anyway, we're going to keep going. It says, every man praying or prophesying with his head covered dishonors his head. And I thought about that. And Dory shared with me, in the Philippines, a man always takes off his hat before he goes in the church. And the way she explained it was that the hat is for something outside. You're not, once you come in and you take your hat off, you're now part of what's going on. And socially, leaving the hat on means that you're still thinking about being outside. You're not thinking about being inside. You see what I'm saying? So that's sort of
that way. They want you to take your hat off.
Well, yeah, and some churches don't care. I've seen churches where the drummer's wearing a hat, or even the pastor's wearing a hat. I don't think to me it doesn't matter so much, but it made sense because Paul is saying, hey, it dishonors the man if he's wearing the hat inside. And I thought, and the reason Paul gives is because, man is made in God's image, but woman is made in man's image. And I think that gives sort of a lesser look at women. I think what Paul is trying to say, there is a protocol in church, but yeah. We've also discussed the fact that a husband and wife are one before God. So that's not really what Paul's trying to say. I think Dory's explanation in the Philippines made more sense to me, that in the Philippines, the hat is something that you wear outside. It's not part of, once you come in the house, you take your shoes off, right? You take your hat off. You're now home, and you want the man to be home when he's home. And so I think it's about an image of self-respect, an image of humility, an image of humbleness. So in the Philippines, it's more of a humbleness thing. Also, when I was pastoring in Pennsylvania, I think I had a girl walk in the back, not dressed appropriately, probably would have made guys' head turn, but she sat in the back, and an older woman in the front stood up and started yelling at her in the middle of this sermon that I was preaching to get out because she was embarrassing. She left crying, and she never came back. And I actually asked that lady, the older lady that complained, I called her out on it after, not during the service, but I called her out afterwards. And that eventually led to me asking her to leave the church, because the point was that maybe that girl, the best that she had was what she wore. And maybe the reason she came to church and sat in the back, because God got a hold of her, and she had a come to Jesus moment. And the only place she could think of to make that transaction with Jesus was at a church. And she walked into a church, and the first thing she did is somebody call her a prostitute and tell her to get out.
Yeah,
okay?
that wouldn't go well with her, would it?
No, and she probably never came back. And the thing is, so I don't think Paul is necessarily saying a woman has to keep her head covered in church. I'm just saying that I think the way I would think it would apply to us today is, I think he's trying to say that you should have a spirit of humbleness, humility, right? I think it's more the spirit of humility, because that girl that walked in inappropriately, sat in the back of the church in Pennsylvania, she came in there because she wanted to meet Jesus, and her heart was humble. Maybe her clothing wasn't appropriate, but that could have been fixed.
Yeah,
but the reality,
spit at her instead.
But she got evil. She got evil spoken to her by somebody who's supposed to be a good Christian in the front row, and the reality was that girl's heart was humble. And I think what Paul's saying here is not so much don't cover your head if you're a guy, cover your head if you're a girl. He's saying that specifically to Corinth, and I'm gonna explain why here in a second. But ideally for us, it's about a spirit of humility, because that girl that came in and sat in the back of the church in Pennsylvania, she humbled herself. She knew people would look at her. She knew people would talk about her. But she came because she wanted to come to Jesus moment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's all that should matter. Now, Dory also said in Hong Kong, if somebody came to church, this is just a custom with the Chinese that are in Hong Kong, that if you come to church and your bosom is exposed a little bit, then in that church they have extra shawls. You remember the shawls?
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about, Chappie? A shawl?
I think
almost like a little blanket or something you wear.
It's like a wrap. It just goes over your shoulders.
Like a wrap. Yeah. So they would have that on the side. So if somebody came in that way, they didn't tell them they had to leave, but they simply asked for the next hour if they could wear the covering or the wrap. You know what? And that worked just fine. Right? That worked just fine. That's saying, hey, maybe it's not appropriate, but I'm not going to tell you it's wrong. I'm just saying, hey, could you just maybe wear this while you're here? And nobody ever left because of it. So I think that was a good way to handle it. I mean, what do you think?
I don't think anybody should require any other person to wear something that person's not willing to wear.
Well, I'm just saying, if the choice is you have one person yelling in the front row, you're a prostitute, you have to leave. Or if you have another person being nice and generous and loving to you and asking maybe you could cover up while you're there, I think which one's less threatening? I'm just saying between the two.
Well, that would be a lot more pleasant. You say, here, can you cover up? Because guys are getting a little
yes, yeah. And that's what she was saying. She was saying the reason they asked the girl to cover up is so it wouldn't tempt a guy, because guys are tempted visually.
Visual, yeah.
So that was the reason that they gave. I think that's better than calling somebody a prostitute and saying leave.
Oh, much better.
Because you know
Oh.
what? Jesus didn't come. Jesus said, I didn't come to heal the well. I came to heal the sick. Who do you want to come to church? Well, I want people that are not Christians to come to church so they can hear Jesus, so they could become a Christian. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a closed group. It's not a country club.
People get that way though. Some churches get that way. You got to dress a certain way, or you got to have this, or it's not about that. It's not even about the church. It's about the word. You know, John the Baptist wasn't a pretty guy. I mean, he was pretty scraggly and smelly and not dressed that well, but he baptized Jesus.
Yeah. Well, and then also she had mentioned when she worked in Abu Dhabi that everybody covered up. All the women covered up, and all you could see was their eyes.
That's crazy.
And even if you were a prostitute, you still covered up. So covering up didn't mean you weren't a prostitute. It just meant you covered up. Because some of the women in Abu Dhabi that cover up, they're still prostitutes. So it doesn't
Yeah.
mean you're being humble. You're doing it because culture says you have to. So if you go to church and you cover up because you have to, you know, but in that culture in the Middle East, you have women that cover up. It doesn't mean they're modest women, because even the prostitutes in that country cover up.
Sure, you
Yeah.
say, yeah.
What?
So that leads me back to what Paul was saying. I think what Paul's saying in this whole thing is to be humble in your spirit. How does that apply today? If I go to church, I shouldn't be braggadocious. I shouldn't be this. I shouldn't be that. I don't think God really cares about what's on the outside, because Scripture says that God looks past the outward appearance into the heart of man. God cares about what's going on inside, not on the outside. Sometimes the guy that has the nicest $500 suit in church is the guy that's the crook on Monday.
That's why he's got the expensive suit.
That's why he's got the $500 suit and the diamond ring. I got you. So the thing is, I think what Paul is trying to say is there's a spirit of humility. The reason he calls out the women in Corinth, though, because think about it, he doesn't say this to the women in Rome. He doesn't say it to the women in Ephesus or Philistia, or he doesn't say it to the women in Galatia. He only says it to women in Corinth because this was a town in Greece where if a woman walked around town showing her long, beautiful hair and she had makeup on and she had jewelry on, then that woman was a prostitute in Corinth. So Paul was saying, if you become a Christian and that is who you used to be, you need to look different now that you belong to Jesus. And so he would say, cover your hair. Now, at the end of this, remember he says that a woman's hair, but verse 15, but if a woman has long hair, it's her glory, for her hair was given to her as a covering. So why should she cover her hair if her hair is a covering, right? In Corinth,
Makes sense.
right, yeah, but in Corinth, he said they should do it because the women that walk around town with the beautiful long hair and the makeup and jewelry are the town prostitutes. So he says, now that you belong to Jesus, look different, be different, act different.
Yeah, that way people can tell there's an actual difference in you.
And if you're watching this, that's us too. It doesn't matter if you're a woman or a man. I know Paul looks like he's down in the women, but he's not. He's just trying to make clarification because of where Corinth was and what was the predominant culture. But the point is, if you're watching this, is that we should always have, as a Christian, a spirit of humility, humbleness. We should want to be different than the world. So if I go to talk to somebody who's lost, that person should see something different in me. If he doesn't see anything different in me, then why would he want to be like me?
Yeah.
That's it. And that's it. Do you have anything else to say? I think that's the end of what I have for today.
That's not it. That can't be it.
That's
Come on.
I know there's a lot more that we can say, and I lost a lot of time because I was late, and then I couldn't get my microphone to work, and then I had to change my microphone, and I couldn't get my camera to work. You guys can
computer dancing.
Is your camera separate from your computer?
No, yeah, it's separate from the computer, but it's the wire. I think that it's a bad wire, and I have to play with a wire to get it to work.
Okay, all right.
And Apple is shutting down all my apps on my computer now. So even though I have a big screen and I have a terabyte of memory, it doesn't matter because Apple's starting to shut down my apps. So
don't let them.
Anyway, yeah, nothing I can do.
You can hack the OS and get it to turn them back on.
Well, we'll talk about that later then, if you can help me to do that. But anyway, I think we're at the end today because I got to get going to take Dory to work. But a lot more could be said, and I can tell if we had some women that were part of this, a lot more would be said because I'm sure women have very strong feelings on this topic. Because, like I said in the past, unfortunately, churches misunderstood that passage, and husbands didn't treat their wives correctly. And like Brian had said, just in our closing comments here, that God has made the husband and wife to be one person before God. And so we're to submit to each other, and we're to be one whole person before God. And if we're one whole person, one person can't rule over the other person.
That's right.
And Jesus said that the husband should be the head of the house the way Jesus is the head of the church, because Jesus sacrificed his life for the church. And so that means the husband is to be the defender of his family. That's all Paul was saying. If you're the husband, you should be the defender of your family. If you're the wife, you should be the love and the care and the moral and direction and stuff. So we all have a part, but we're one person before God. And like Chappie said, you couldn't have a family without a wife, and the wife couldn't have a family without a husband. So the reality is we all have our roles, but before God, we're one person, and you should approach God as one person. That's my last word on that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's why it's important for a husband and wife to do their daily prayer together.
Yes, pray together, because it's true. It's that a family that prays together stays together. It's true. If you pray with your wife, and we make it habit before we get out of bed, before we go to sleep, and it's important that you have that time together. And physical touch. It's important that you have physical touch. They did a study saying that when you sleep, if you have skin to skin contact, you actually it boosts your endorphins, and it boosts your what is it? Not endorphins, but it boosts something else to reduce weight loss. What is it? When you burn more fat and stuff.
Burn fat?
No, what is the chemical in your body that you want?
Adrenaline?
Huh?
Adrenaline?
Adrenaline? No. Like if I'm eating, I want my whatever chemical to be where I'm burning more than I'm. Huh?
Blood sugar?
No. Well, okay. I can't think of what it's called, but they're saying that you have that chemical works better at night when there's skin to skin contact.
Oh, well.
And I'm just saying there's things that benefit this as being the better one person. There's things both. I'm just saying within science it proves it. Within the spiritual it proves it.
So is that trying to tell me I should go out and find a wife?
Yes, it is. It's saying that.
Definitely. Thursday, I'm glad we have this went over Corinthians, because Thursday on TBI Reality we're going to have our spouses. I've written 5 questions. I believe it was 5 questions, and she answered them, and we're going to go over them. So we'll do the 5 questions.
And
I'll do my one, and then Dan will do his one, and then
Yeah, but my wife is going to be here with me tomorrow. It's Thursday.
Oh, she's going to be part of the broadcast.
Yeah, so you need to get your wife to be part of the broadcast, because my wife's going to be part of the broadcast.
I don't think she wrote the questions. I don't think she's here today, and she's probably watching right now. So that's a challenge, Michelle. If you're watching, Pastor Dan says you need to be part of the podcast Thursday, and that podcast will be at Thursday at 8 a.m. on Rumble, here live on Rumble. So we'll be here. It'll be Pastor Dan, Big Vern there, and myself. If there's anybody who wants to get on the podcast,
and Dory. So
Dory too. Yes, I forgot about Dory. And there was possibly my wife. We did for this podcast, Coffee in the Bible. I did invite Pastor Nicholas Bowling. He's out there. I see him on Mardi Gras and stuff. I think it'd be interesting to have him on here. And I also invited that. I think his name's Brian. He's got that bull Rufus. They're out of Arkansas, and he's speaking truth about Jesus the other day. And I think it'd be cool to have him and the bulls and his wife there.
So that would be good too. So I'm really hoping that we get some more people. We can have up to 9. I know that it could make the podcast go longer, but it's okay too. And I
Yeah.
think that if we're able to cover areas and make the Bible super simple, and then in TBI, we're able to help people and families work better together, I think. And then also Brian's starting one on single parenting. So all this works together, and it all is very conducive between all the different podcasts. So hopefully we get big people in our forums to talk and all that stuff. So we'll see everybody next week for the rest of First Corinthians, really looking at how, don't come into church drunk, and it's more of that. Paul is saying, don't participate in the Lord's Supper unworthily. What does that mean? That's really what we're looking at. And then to finish out chapter 11. But today was good. I think it's a good precursor for the TBI podcast for Thursday. And
spouse is a big part of that.
And then, Brian, do you have an idea when we'll start the single parenting? I know you have good content ready.
Yeah, I'm ready to go there. I'm just working on getting the logo.
Okay,
done.
so once you get that done, just pick a day and time, and we'll be there. All right, I got to go.
All
See
right.
everybody.
Have a good one.
All right.
Good day.
Oh, wrong one. I don't know what that came from.